Oh, I was just saying, I used to believe that the people that can leverage AI will replace the one who doesn't, but I think as more the technology evolve, we're already seeing is replacing a bunch of people, especially right here on the side, on the customer server side. AI chatbot is, from my experience, it has replaced big portion of a lot of business when it comes to customer servers. It used to take them 5 or 10 people to do those jobs. Now just being replaced with um, one AI chatbot. But you still need people to monitor the system and continue improving it. But that a human resource required to do that is a lot less than what it required to actually handle these tasks manually. And right now, especially with autonomous agent, I think just more and more, even when it comes to monitoring, I think will be replaced in the near future. I may be wrong, but that's just my thoughts only so far.
Okay, good. Eddie.
Grayson, let me jump in before you answer Eddie's question. Grayson, I don't disagree that chatbots have become, a little more pervasive than they have in the past, and that they certainly are much more reliable as they're AI enabled. But let's look at the analogy of, the infamous voice auto attendant experience that we all have experienced at one point or another, calling the cable company or your phone company, press one to speak to sale, and then you're screaming into the phone, representative, representative, representative. There's been a lot of, comedy acts that base themselves on this kind of stuff. The ability to understand and seamlessly transition from the AI chatbot into a human interaction is still there, and it still needs to be there for what I would call a frictionless customer experience, right? And you have to think about things from that standpoint. It's not about using AI to reduce the cost, although certainly there's a benefit of that. You get that as kind of an output. But when you're talking about enhancing the experience and gaining a competitive advantage of an experience, the fact that you introduce a chatbot, that might be, low-hanging fruit, but at the same time, it is not necessarily something that's going to replace, your interaction with a person. But how frictionless you make that, that's where you'll see success. And that's where they resonate. I have not seen a good implementation of chatbot AI yet that has that seamless experience. I've seen where they say, okay, let me get somebody to help you, or, I'm sorry, I'm going to escalate this and you're going to transfer to so-and-so. And there's a little bit of friction there. It's not a big piece of friction, but, you have to rate it. And so the way we tend to approach it when we talk to clients is, let's focus on the user journey. Let's focus on, what you want someone to experience when they're interacting with your company. And then you design that around your AI needs.
Let's just say the scenario of me using a chatbot for a company to, return my product. If I can completely have that product being returned or the issue resolved just by me talking to the AI chatbot without any human intervention, don't you think that counts as completely replacement of that human element in it, even though in the end of the day, there is someone monitoring the system in the back?
So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to, hijack the whole conversation here, Grayson, because you and I can talk offline and we know each
Yeah,
other.
of
But
course.
but ultimately, my answer to that is just look at a regular buying experience. You get something and it's delivered from UPS, okay? And I'm deliberately not picking on Amazon, and I'll tell you why about that in a minute. But if you get something delivered from UPS, let's say you go to Nordstrom, famous superstore, you buy an article of clothing, it comes. And when you get the package, it has the return label for UPS. All of a sudden, you decide whatever you bought didn't fit, so you want to make it as seamless as possible. You still have to go to a UPS store and drop it off, right? And you still have to, make sure that it gets tracked and that you get credited back to your account.
Hmm.
It's still friction points. Those are still friction points. To me, the seamless thing is like Amazon actually has a good example where, you know what, the box didn't get delivered. You click it in your app, boom, boom, boom. Okay, yeah. Do you want us to send a replacement or you want to just give you the refund? We send you the replacement, done. They've made it frictionless. And there's a high percentage, or not, it's an acceptable percentage of people that are, skimming the system, so to speak, where they say they never received it and they actually get it. But they can prove that over time, and they can also look and using AI to actually determine the likelihood that this return is actually when you say something wasn't delivered, that it was delivered. That's why you started to see Amazon deliveries taking pictures when they leave it at your door now, because once they have the photography there, then they can say, oh, we left it here on this day and time, so they know that. So those are the kind of things that I think are real world examples.
Good.
All right, now we'll call on Eddie because he
Eddie,
was first.
go ahead.
Well, just a little bit of a piggyback on Ken's comments. I mean, it was an interesting article I read this week about companies that are investing in AI, and quite often they don't get the return on the investment, or it doesn't really work out like they think it will. And I think that's part of this journey as things mature is learning what doesn't work. And being in this forum and forums like this, it's important to also understand and get knowledge from a competitive advantage perspective of where not to spend your effort and waste energy and money doing that. So it's a very quick, fast changing environment in terms of where the technology's at. So I think that piece is important. And just another comment, Ken, on the last mile stuff. You talk about the returns from Amazon, and you do still have to go somewhere if you want to return it. Typically, there are companies that are diligently working on solving that, the efficiency of that last mile. And I think one area they haven't really tapped into, which is probably going to be AI generated.
So the next thing I wanted to say, and to just expand on what Ken was saying about plans and what Amy would say if she were here. Yes, it's very important to have policies and plans in place for your own purposes. But I wanted to talk about the technology just for 1 second. We talk a lot about the models, and we talk about services and engines that are available to us. Keep in mind that it depends on how you're implementing and what your policies are around this, but your data is the most important. So public data, which is what's in ChatGPT, for example, your data gets added to the public data if you're using it. But if you want to specifically move things more toward everything that you do, if you want to take out the potential for hallucinations or for public data clouding what you know in your proprietary data, just keep in mind that the engines themselves can also be fine-tuned. You can use retrieval augmented generation, which is essentially, think of it as piping in your own data, even though you might be using public data and or public models. So those are all technologies and advances that are happening very rapidly as well. And I think that's what we're going to see in the next evolution is movement away from the, trillions and trillions of contributions of public data and more of the private or proprietary data being infused into the AI outcomes.
Very good.
Yep. Well said.
Very well said. Thank you, Sherry. Other thoughts? Okay.
I wanted to, Lee, can I hijack for 2 seconds?
Go ahead, Ken.
Because I like to hijack you and keep you on your toes. I just wanted to, there's a new PDF that Deloitte has issued, and Deloitte has been their AI Institute. I have a friend of mine, Bill Doherty, who actually is really one of their managing partners. But they came out with a good PDF today on AI. But they did highlight one thing that I think was really critical is that what are the can we define value capture of generative AI? And so we know there's some big buckets, right? The value capture being defined as what 6 dimensions can we really apply? So there's cost reduction, right? There's process efficiency, there's growth, there's innovation, right? Discovery and insights, and citizen or government services, right? And those are kind of the key pieces of value capture. When you look at AI, it needs to fall into one of those categories. And so it helps me as a futurist, it helps me in understanding what area am I really pursuing with AI to a specific business. So when you're talking to somebody and you're saying, hey, is this a process efficiency? Is this a cost reduction? Is this new discovery and insights, right? Now, I noticed I didn't mention anything about experience because that's the next layer down. But clearly, these are the big 6 buckets, and we should be taking that forward because it'll help you further compartmentalize those discussions you want to have on AI. Because AI is more than just ChatGPT, and it's more than a large language model. Machine learning, neural networks, okay, and image generation, video creation, algorithmic, and eventually all of it is leading towards artificial generative intelligence or general intelligence, which is going to be where it's almost sentient, not quite making it everything, but learning on its own, deciding on its own. That's where it becomes autonomous. So Sashi referred to, some AI agents. There are some agents that are being tested now, but again, the controls are not defined well enough, and there's a standards body that's being formed to actually think about what does it mean to have an AI agent, and how far do you let it go make decisions on its own before you can interfere or overrule. I'm
Good.
done now, Lee.
All right, Ken, I'll jump back in. So I have an interesting picture up here. I asked GPT to produce for me. And it's basically takes the world and puts it into two halves. The people on the left are going to control the infrastructure, possibly the infrastructure of AI. And it's almost like looking at a black and white TV. And if you're almost as old as me, you were around when that happened, but I was. And I remember I had a few friends with color TVs, and I would always try to figure out a way to go to their house. So that may be some of the areas that we're headed for. There's going to be folks that have the knowledge, that have the color TV, and there's going to be the folks that don't have it. And it's almost is going to be as stark as the folks that have the internet and the ones that don't have the internet, and what their access to knowledge is going to be. So should this be a concern? Yeah, I believe it needs to be a concern. And the other thing that I thought about was, what's the force multiplier of somebody that really, really knows how to use AI? Is it 5 to 1? Is it 10 to 1? I've spent a fair amount of time on it. My force multiplier personally is between 20 and 40 to 1. So for every hour I spend, I can usually get back between 20 and 40 hours of other work that I would